All right, welcome folks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of radio communications. Some of the core competencies for this video: 1. Perform basic radio functions on mobile and portable radios. 2. Communicate using proper terms and etiquette. 3. Achieve an understanding of the importance of radio communications. And finally, 4. A basic understanding of repeater function. So, what are radios for? Well, it's our primary means of communication. This is how we talk to each other, different agencies, and dispatch. 2, there's some specific radio etiquette, and we're going to go over that. We'll also cover mobile functions as well as portable functions. So, like I said, it's the primary means of communication. Most emergency traffic is conducted over the radio. If it's not over the radio, it's usually over the phone. Listening is very important. If you can't hear someone calling you, you can't respond. You also may miss some important information that's going on that may relate to patient care or safety. Also, having a radio on you is a lifeline. That is your primary means of communication, and it's also your primary means of calling for help. It may be simple as someone requesting a piece of equipment, or you requesting help because someone is potentially being violent. Always take your radio with you. And then finally, being able to receive and relay information accurately and effectively is key. So it's very important that we communicate well, that we have the means to communicate, i.e. radio. And we're going to go over a little bit of the etiquette about that in a second. Now, how do we hail fire alarm or hail another unit? Well, the way MacGregor does it is we always mention the unit that we're hailing first. So, for example, fire alarm, and then our next word is going to be from, who are we, ambulance 3 in this case. So fire alarm from ambulance 3. Or in the case if we're hailing Durham, medic 1 from MacGregor ambulance 3. Now it's always important to wait for a reply. Just because you hail them doesn't mean, and you didn't hear anything, doesn't mean they didn't hear you. Sometimes it may take a second to reply. This is especially important when it comes to dispatch. So fire alarm may need a second to kind of get their act together to call. Right? Next, the importance of unit identification. There's more than one ambulance 3, there's more than one ambulance 2, there's more than one ambulance 1. Dover ambulance 1 could be operating in town. We know that Barrington ambulance 1 and 2 are on our same frequency. So always designating the fact that it is a MacGregor truck versus a Barrington truck or Dover truck is important when communicating. Next, brevity. When communicating over the radio, you need to be brief and you need to relay information accurately. So, communicating key information in a few words rather than a bunch of words is important because only one unit can be talking on the radio at a time. If you're telling a long story on the radio, someone with more important traffic may not be able to get through. So think before you speak and keep your traffic short. Next, radio information versus phone information / communication. So if you do have to tell a story, or if it's information of a sensitive nature, consider placing a phone call. Having dispatch's phone number is very important. Make sure you put that in your personal phone. It's also listed in all the phones in our vehicles. Next, do not step on other traffic. So if, let's say, MacGregor ambulance 3, we hailed fire alarm, so fire alarm from MacGregor ambulance 3, and you're in ambulance 2, you wouldn't then hail fire alarm immediately after us. You know that we requested to speak to fire alarm. You would wait for that interaction to stop and then hail. So right now we're going to go over some of the functions of the mobile radio. I'll turn our light back on here. Actually, let's see if we do this. All right. So first off, these mobile radios, there's 2 in each truck. Okay, I'm focusing on the backup radio right here. They're the secondary frequency. Our primary one is up top here. Has green tape on it. The backup has red tape on it. All right, or a secondary radio rather. So these are 100-watt radios. They're mounted a little bit higher antenna-wise. They have pretty good range. A lot more powerful than the portable radios. If you couldn't get through on a portable, I recommend using one of these. Now, go over the button layout a little bit here. Okay, and starting from left to right. Here you can see this is where the cord comes out for the microphone. Okay, you shouldn't play with that, and that should always be on there tight. Next, this is the volume control. This white indent right here marks which level it's at. So the radio is all the way down right now. If I was to turn it to the right, that's going to increase the volume, and then we'll get quite loud. I find that most people leave it right about in the middle or a little bit better. Moving down here, this is the light button. You really shouldn't have to mess with this, but this will adjust the light settings. If you do walk in on a truck and you can't see very clearly, you may consider hitting the light button to turn the light on. Next, this is the home button. Now, as much as I mess with this radio and find some frequency I don't know about, I can always hit the home button and it'll bring you home. Now, sometimes it's a hold.
Durham Fire.
And there you go. Because this is the secondary radio, its home frequency is Durham Fire. Our primary radio is set to Williamson repeater. Next, this is the power button. You should never turn the radio off, but if you do find a radio that is off, all right, it's just one single push, and the radio should come back on for you. You see all 3 lights, that's normal.
Durham Fire.
And then the radio's back on. Now, these are the 2 zone up, zone down buttons. This is zone down, this is zone up. All right, so zone down will bring you to our furthest away zone, zone Y. And then zone up will bring you to B,
Exeter Hospital,
and then C. Okay.
Durham Fire.
Scan, we'll turn scan off and on. All right, and then what you'll see is a little Z appear. You may see it, or you may not be able to see it, but yeah, it's right here. When you see that Z appear, that means the scan is on. To turn scan off, you do that. Now, scan is going to be looking at any frequency that is listed on the scan list. So you can add frequencies and take them off. You shouldn't be doing that. But it's looking at a bunch of different frequencies, maybe some police frequencies, but it's always looking back at the primary frequency, which is Durham Fire on this radio. So it's always checking back to see if there's traffic on that one. All right. It's the nuisance button. You really shouldn't have to worry about that. You shouldn't have to worry about mute either. You can move further over using this dial here. Monitor button, the color button, and info button. You really don't have to worry about these. If you ever get into these, hey.